Hi everyone, it's Ms. Zaderman again. We're back for video number 3, and today we're going to focus really on files and folders that live on your physical computer or iPad or laptop. A lot of emphasis is put on internet or email or cloud-based storage, but it's also important to understand a little bit about how to store data or information on your physical device. It helps to keep you organized, if you have a system of naming your files and folders in certain ways. So I want to at least touch on that with you a little bit before we move into some of our more substantive projects. Okay. When we organize computer files, most of those files are going to live on what's called your hard drive. Now, a hard drive is basically the memory zone of your computer. It stores information. It stores a lot of information, quite frankly. So knowing how a computer stores and organizes information is going to help you find that information when you really need it, and then enable you to communicate clearly with various stakeholders of your organization. Now, stakeholders can include anyone from a colleague to your boss or supervisor. A stakeholder can include a donor. A stakeholder can include your client. So there are a lot of different people with whom you communicate and who you might need to share documents and files with. All right. Now, computers use files and folders as the means to organize the information that you create that lives on your device. So what's a file, really? A file is just a collection of data or information. You can have a file that's in a Microsoft Word document, like an essay for your English class. You can have a file that has mathematical equations and a spreadsheet and a whole bunch of different numbers. You can have a file that has a lot of images and pictures and videos and music, etc. So the file isn't one type of file. It's really just a certain format that holds information. Now, files can be saved on a hard drive, which lives inside your computer. It's a physical device that you can hold, but it's tucked away nice and neatly. A file can be saved on an external hard drive, which is basically a hard drive that lives outside of your computer. A great example of this is a simple USB, which is basically just a teeny tiny hard drive. Your files can live on the OneDrive, which is part of your Microsoft Office 365 suite. We're going to get to that in video number 4. Or your files can really live in a cloud. Now, we know that a cloud is not the actual cloud that live and float happily in the sky, but rather companies like Apple and Google, they have a huge warehouse where they fill it with a whole bunch of different computer hard drives. And they call it a cloud because it sounds better than warehouse with hard drives in it. But basically, they let your files live on their hard drives and give you access to that drive so that you don't have a lot of data or weight bogging down your computer. But no matter where they're saved, you have the option of what folder those files are going to live in. And you can do a lot with files. You can create them, rename them, name them, save them, delete them, edit them, share them, email them. You can take a screenshot of them. There's a lot of things that you can do with your files. But I think what's most important is how you name your files. And naming a file is important because it helps with organization. And again, at the core of what we're doing in this term is business communication. All right. So when you're on a job or you're on an internship or even in school, you're very likely going to share a lot of files with people. Now, a lot of organizations do not use Google Docs to share because there's privacy issues there. So you have to be flexible and really understand each of the systems that are available to you depending upon what job you're on. Okay, so here's a couple examples. So let's say that I'm in charge of organizing a shareholder meeting for my company. And a shareholder is essentially just a person or organization that owns a small piece or a large piece of another business. I own a stock in a business, and that's considered an equity ownership share. All right, let's say the second thing I'm creating for my job is I'm doing a grant application because we need to get extra money to fund part of our organization. This is for our operations budget. So what I've done here is for the shareholder meeting, I kept it simple. Well, if it's about the shareholder meeting, then I'm just going to name it shareholder meeting dash, and then I'm going to put a date here. And that date becomes important because I can figure out the most current version of my document based on the date. The second part here that's really important is the type of file that we're using. We don't create this, right? The program is going to create this little handle. In this case, it's a .docx file, which designates that this is a Microsoft Word document. Okay? Similar to the grant application. Here we go. Grant _ application _ operations. And then I did a whole bunch of underscores with a date. .exe. The .exe here means Excel. It's an Excel workbook. So the recipient of this file can understand what they're about to open up. Now, when this really becomes important is when we start sharing and modifying a document with other people. So if changes are made, then the file name has to start to reflect a new or updated version. Okay. So let's say we're doing a press release for our fall fundraiser. I'm in charge of generating that document. I create a really awesome press release. I think it's fantastic. So I create a file name that says press release _ fall fundraiser.docx. And we know that this means Microsoft Word document. Correct. Perfect. But because I'm not the boss yet, I got to go share this document with my supervisor. She may or may not accept it. She may make changes. So I send the press release _ fall fundraiser.docx to my boss. And she's like, all right, this is great, but I'm going to make some changes. So she does. She makes a few changes. She changes the font style, the color. She does a few formatting things. But she sends it back to me with this little guy right here, this V2. What does that mean? V2. So press release _ fall fundraiser _ V2. Version number 2. And she's clever because she said, you know what? Maybe it'll keep us more organized if I know that this is an updated file. It's a second version of it. And it's a .docx. She didn't change the type of file that we're using. Okay, cool. So now she gives me the fundraiser document in V2, and then I send it out to one of our clients, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to make another change. Oy. So we've got press release now, and she sends it back to me. Press release _ fall fundraiser _ V3. So now we're on the third version of this document. Now, having those different versions here, and different organizations handle these things differently. Sometimes they just update the date. Sometimes they have a special code. Sometimes they put the author's initials at the end of this to show who made the last change. But however your organization does it, it's important because let's say my boss and the client, they didn't change these. I might accidentally release my original version, but it would have been incorrect because there were changes that had to be made, and then it would have made me look kind of silly. So anytime you update a document, even with our class together, if you send me a document and I send you back an edit, I'm going to change the file name so you know which is the most current document and which changes need to be made. It just makes everybody's work look a lot better and keeps us really organized. All right. Now, what is a folder? With so many thousands of files that are stored inside your hard drive, it's really important to keep those files organized. So we use folders, also known as directories, to keep your files organized. We group them together that way. So think of a folder on a computer, just like these paper folders above. Or you can think about all the different storage cabinets in Miss Shellhorn's classroom. She has filing cabinets. She's got these huge cabinets there with little extra boxes, and things are grouped together. All the paints are together. The paintbrushes are together. The scissors are together. And that's essentially what a folder does, is it keeps similar files organized in a similar group. So if you have a file about your fall fundraiser, let's say, open up a folder so everything about the fall fundraiser lives in one folder, and that way you don't lose documents. Okay. Now, sometimes the computer is going to automatically store files in certain folders to keep itself organized because it's a computer and it's pretty smart. So if you download a document, the default setting might be, okay, it's a downloaded document, it goes in the downloaded folder. But when you create new files, you're going to have to decide where they're going to live, which folder to put them in. So you can create folders as you wish, just as easily as you create a file. So you can decide which location to store that file, like your desktop, documents file or drive, the C drive, etc. Okay. Before we explore Microsoft Office 365, I just want to demonstrate how to save a file on your desktop so that you can have a sample of how to do it for the rest of our assignments. So I'm going to get out of this PowerPoint for a minute. Here we go. I've got a brand new document with some data in it for me. So here we go. I'm going to click in the document. It says files and folders, and these are the two questions we're going to answer together. So the first question is, what should we name this document? And the second question is, where should we save this document? So this is a good place to just have a mini orientation of Microsoft Word document folder files. Once you click on a Word doc, you're going to see a number of what are called toolbars or ribbons pop up, which we're going to talk about in detail in a couple lessons from now. So at the very top, I can go to Word, I can go to File, Edit, I can do a whole bunch of different things. Once I'm in the document, I've got this really cool fancy schmancy ribbon, which a lot of you have seen before, and I can make things bold, I can highlight, I can do a lot of really cool things with this ribbon. But for today's lesson, we're going to focus mainly on this guy right here. At the top of this file, it just says Document 7. Well, Document 7 isn't specific enough for me. I don't even know what Document 7 means. So we're going to have to give this guy a name. And let's think, what would make sense for this kind of... should we just call it Files and Folders Practice, or Practice with Practice Saving Documents? Let's figure it out together. So if I wanted to save this document, I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to slide down to Save As, and I'm going to click on Save As. Oh, look, this cool window popped up. So on the left side of this Save As window, you're going to see these different favorite locations: applications, desktop, documents, downloads, movies, music, pictures, etc. In the top center, it says Save As, and it's going to give me a chance to put a specific file name here. A little further down, you're going to see a folder, and I can decide which folder or which area I would like my document to live in. If I'm down here, I can say, what type of file format do I want? Currently, it says Word document.docx, which we saw earlier, which means that a docx is a Word document. I can click down here and I can change the file format. I can make it a template. I can make it in rich text format, plain text, web text, etc. And we'll talk about these in a little bit. But for today's purposes, I want this to stay as a Word doc. So I'm going to choose a name for this file so I remember it. Let's call it Practice with Files and Folders, right? And I can put 1/2021 on it. So now I know I'm going to have it live on my desktop so I can find it easily. And let's hit save. I'm a little nervous. Boom. So two things to notice. The name at the top of my Word document is going to change. And I'm going to go to my desktop. Sorry, it's a little messy. And I'm going to see where I can find my document. Oh, there he is. So, Practice with Files and Folders, and then I've got the date. This is my desktop, so I can easily find the document. I'll double click on it just to check, and there it is. My document's been saved. Pretty cool. All right. So, for our next video, we're going to talk about Microsoft Office 365. So make sure that you know your MCNY email address, because we're going to figure out how to not only log in, but we're going to explore some of the features of Microsoft Outlook and the OneDrive. All right, exciting stuff. See you then. Bye, everybody.